Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. Next year all our troubles will be miles away.
Welcome to the Comfy Red Couches block party. It is Sunday, December 16th, and it is time to block a shawl. Now let me warn you, these block parties are pretty amazing. Like most parties, you know, you worry about maybe ending up on the floor. Well, at my block party, you start off on the floor. So, materials needed. Soaked shawl, squeezed out, not wrung out. Some blocking wires. These babies, these are the blocking knit blockers. There's like pegs. And then I have a little tray with a bunch of T-pins. The other thing you need is mat on the floor. So trying to position this so that I can have you join me without, there we go. So we are going to start off moving everything off of the mats, and I have 7 2x2 mats filled out on the floor because this is a very, very large shawl. This is the planting seed shawl, and I am going to start off and figure out how it's going to be laid out, whether it's going to need a twist to it or what's going to need to happen. In the background, you might be able to hear the third floor washing machine. The sheets are in for the week. It is Sunday morning, so my routine is putting the sheets on. So the house may start to shake, and it's not from the joy of blocking and the blocking party here. It's from the washing machine. So I just first off lay it out the way I want to see it. I'm going to pull it down a little bit more because I've got lots of room down here and not as much down the other end. This is a very large shawl, and it is going to need to be pulled up. So you get to crawl all around on the blocks. It's like playtime. And it looks like a very wonky layout right now, so I'm not 100% thrilled at how it's laying out. And I need to have enough room that I can do lots of stretching at the bottom. So I'm going to do this, and then I'll show you the basic layout, and then I'm going to start doing some pinning. Here is the shawl laid out. It obviously needs to be straightened up a little bit. Here are all of the mats, and let's get back down on the floor and start doing some pinning. So first off, I'm wet. First off, I'm going to start off with the blockers, and I just pull a bunch of these out. These come in the longer ones and the shorter ones, so full size and half size. And I usually start off at the middle. There is a little bit of a hump in this shawl, and I just start off by sticking in the center and following along the top of the shawl. And sometimes when I go around a corner, I might use one of the smaller ones. But I definitely have a lot more of the larger ones than I do the smaller ones. And then of course when I get to this corner up here, this is when I really want to use the smaller ones. Just space them out because I'm going to use the wires on the edge of the shawl here because this shawl has picots in it. So I've secured this top edge. I'm going to now secure the other side. And of course, when you are blocking, you do need to be careful of stepping on pins because stepping on pins is never a good idea and hurts like the dickens. Now, I used my pearly points a while back to buy the knit blockers, and that was a great use of points. I ended up getting 2 boxes, and oftentimes, especially with a really big shawl, I need them. So I'm out of the large ones, so I'm going to take a couple from the other box, pop a couple smalls in the corner here. So this room is my knitting room. It's up on the 3rd floor, and you can see I've got a little bit of knitting stash over there. My sewing machine is in this room, although it hasn't been getting as much love as I would love to be giving it. There we go. And I now have all of my pins in. So the big pins. These are great, just especially for the top. Helps you secure it. Got a really interesting line of the way that where the hump is. I'm not too thrilled with how that's looking. So the great thing about them, they pull out really easily, and you can just redo as necessary. Now I do have hardwood floors on this level, but I also have a very large carpet, which needs a good vacuum, and I just put the pads on top of these. I just got at a local hardware store, the Canadian Tire, and I just put those on top of the carpet on top of the hardwood floor so it doesn't damage the floor. I also have a baby gate in this at the front of this room so that Scout can't come in here. She's not welcome. However, Tasha, she's my blocking pal. She likes to come in. So what we have here is all of the blockers along the top edge of the shawl. What I'm going to do now is each and every single one of these picots all the way around. This is why you end up on the floor in a block party. You get dizzy very easily. So I'm going to string the blocking wires through each of the picots, and then I'm going to use the pins to pull the wires. So I'm going to start that now. The next part is pulling out the blocking wires. Now this is a very, very large shawl, so I'm going to need quite a few. Tasha likes to play with these, so I'm sure she will come up at some point. I'm going to grab 5 for now. I may need more. And I put the lid on because Tasha likes to play with the lid when she comes up as well. So here are the wires. And I can start out anywhere along here. I try to get them so that I know I'll have one up in the top, and I might need 6 for this one. This has lots and lots of picots. This was an epic bind off. So I'm just going to start along an edge, and I'm just going to put the wire through each picot, which will give it definition. And I'm going to push it this way because I want to work going this way. And this does take a while, but I'll tell you, because I now have the blockers along the top edge, blocking takes a lot less time than it used to, because I used to have to string the wires through the top edge, secure it down, and then do the picots and get everything stretched the way I want it. So it takes time to block, but if you've blocked before, you know that it is worth the time, because water and wires transform pieces by magic. These picots are spaced out by about 5 stitches, which still takes a while, but it's a lot better than doing picots that only have 2 stitches between, which can look very effective, but oh my goodness, that type of picot bind off is beyond epic and can take days. This bind off took me several hours on Friday night, and I wanted to leave this until Sunday. I'm not wearing socks right now. My feet might get cold. I might need to pop some socks on in a little bit. I want to leave a little bit of wire at each end. This one has a little bit more because when I start to pull, I don't want to have my picots pop off the ends of the wires. The house is starting to shake now because the spin cycle is happening. So that's what happens on laundry day. This is not a good task to do if you have vertigo. One time I did have a spell of vertigo and I was on the floor blocking, and I had to call Greg to come up and help me get up because I was just so dizzy. And I think it was the striped shawl, didn't help either. Usually when I block, other than Tasha maybe keeping me company, it is usually a very solitary activity, so it is so lovely to have you join me as I block my shawl.
Here we are as in olden days, happy golden days of yore.
These wires are one of the best inventions for knitting because, and they weren't terribly expensive. I think they might have been $35 or something like that, which maybe seems pricey, but I'll tell you, they are fantastic. They don't seem to rust, which is good. I should knock on wood. And they were definitely worth the investment. Okay, so I have my second wire in. I'm going to leave some ends at both sides there. So I'm now about to start with the third wire. And I think I'll continue along the main edge of the shawl, the bottom edge. We'll get up to the sides in a few minutes, but I'm getting closer to you. I'm getting so close to you. I'm surprised Tasha hasn't come to join us. She usually does. And sometimes she likes to bat at the wires as I'm trying to feed them through the picots. So you can see, I take the picot and I just put the wire through the picot, and then I move on to the next one. And at the end, I will have the picots all strung together. You may not come in, Scout. Isn't it so nice to get so up close and personal today? Look at those picots. Okay, I'm going to move to the other side. I've now moved to the side of the shawl. Still picking up picots. Didn't feed that one very well. And just working along one by one. I don't mind feeding picots. They're a little bit easier than doing some edging. I find I-cord edging can be a little bit more challenging, as can just a straight garter edge. That's where I tend to use the blocking pins rather than the blockers rather than just the straight pins. I don't like using pins on their own just because I find they leave funny little bumps, which do work themselves out after a while, but when you've got it fresh off the wires, it just looks so much nicer when they're straight rather than little bumps from the pins being misaligned. And one more. There we go. I've got a little bit of end here and a little bit of end on the other side. And this is a curving edge, so I definitely want to make sure I've got, I may need to pull some off. Yeah, I'm going to take 2 picots off. There we go. Because that's going to have a bit of a round. And next wire. And I'm now at the point where I'm in the corner. This is always a bit of the challenge. This is the challenging spot. I did warn you that the best blocking parties end up on the floor. Mine just start there. This is only the second step. The third step will be to take the T-pins and to pull out the wires and pin between the picots, pulling the wires back. So that will be the final step in order to get a really good stretch. I do like to block my shawls like there's no tomorrow. Now this is just a merino single, so there's no nylon in it. So hopefully it will retain the shape much longer than a shawl that has some nylon in it that would tend to want to stretch back to the form it wants to take rather than the form I'm saying it should take. I'm running out of space. I've got the sewing table behind me. The shawl is over here, so it's wet. And I'm feeling a little bit backed into a corner. I'm actually going to stop this wire here, and I'm going to add my 5th wire onto the very edge here, which means I will need 2 more wires to complete. The hard part is right around this corner. I do have the pins in here. If I need to pull them out, I can, but I do try to like to keep them in place. But I always find this corner is the difficult part. And you want to pick up all the picots so you get a nice little point. Okay, corner here is done. Secure that, and I may even want to start putting a pin or 2 or 3 in. Now I'm going to start to get the shawl to take shape, and I'm going to use my T-pins to start securing the corner, which will help me to keep my wire where I want it to be. And I'm going to use a couple T-pins just to secure the end of my wire so it stays pretty much where I want it to be. The fun part is where the 2 wires join. You want to keep the picots somewhat aligned, but you also A, don't want to have a picot slip off the end of a wire, and B, you want them to look like they were always part of the same wire. So just a little bit of angling there. As I come back closer to you and we start sticking some of these pins in. I did put an extra block over here because I knew this was going to be a big shawl, and I'm glad I did because I'm now going into the space of that extra block. It's kind of hard when the floor is shaking underneath me. It's a little difficult when I get to the edge. I try to put a pin in to secure on the edge. I still have to put the wires through this side, but this side I have put the wires and I have started pinning back, and now I just need to pin this bottom portion, and as I said, put another couple of wires. I think it's going to take 2 in that corner there, and then it will be all pinned up. It is a big shawl. So I'm now at the last 2 wires that I'm going to put in, and I'm also going to do the last bit of pinning. I've pinned along most of the edge and just a little bit left to do. Well, I still have quite a bit of wire in this corner. I'm going to actually give myself lots of excess room there so I can stretch out, and I'm going to do the last little bit of blocking with this wire here. Oh, nobody may back baby into a corner, but this shawl is going to block Tracy into this corner. There's not much room to move. Blocking is a workout, and it's a great way to burn some calories. And the last picot is done. Okay, now it is time to do some pinning. Sometimes blocking requires lots of pinning and unpinning just to get the lines the way you want them. It's always good to have lots of T-pins. You never know when you're going to need more. This shawl is getting blocked to within an inch of its life. And there we are. The shawl is all laid out, blocked. The pins are all in. It's looking good. I do the final inspection to make sure it looks fairly even, and I think it does. And there is our blocking party done. It has been a productive morning. I blocked the planting seeds shawl, which is going to be a gift for my son's teacher. I have also got the sheets in dryer, so they are going to be ready for changing later on. I have my next ball of Nora George yarns wound for my dust of snow wrap. I still need to open my advents for the day and make myself a necessary cup of tea, but it's a nice leisurely Sunday, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a great day, evening, whatever time it is. Bye.
Through the years we all will be together, if the fates allow. Hang a shining star upon the highest bough, and have yourself a merry